Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of The Journey Hub. We are in the third season, and we have a very special guest with us. She has more than 7 years of experience working across agencies and tech. She is currently serving as the Client Service Director at Accenture, and she is also the Vice Chair at Club of Toronto. Ladies and gentlemen, please say hello to Caitlin Neve. Welcome to the show, Caitlin.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Pleasure. So we'll start with the questions. As we all start, about the career thing. So we all wanna know about the journey, especially the audience. So that we wanna ask the first thing, that's what one thing that you should or you would have liked to know before you begin your career.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I was thinking about this for a little bit, and I think one thing that I wish I knew is that not everyone knows everything, and not everyone has all the answers. Because I think when you're first starting in your career, you can have a little bit of imposter syndrome. So I think one thing that I wish I knew is like, don't assume that everyone knows more than you in a room, especially in our industry. Things are always changing, technology is always developing, so you really have to always keep at the top of your game and always be learning and updating your skills. So it's such a fast paced environment that you must always be learning, and not everyone knows more than you. But also be humble at the same time.
That's quite interesting. There's always things that you want to know, and people perceive it with a time period. That's really important. And I think so. What you are doing right now is awesome. And just in order to, know about you more, we also wanted to include this question that, so can you elaborate about your current role at Accenture, and of course, what you're doing and how is your journey been till here?
Yeah, I can start from the beginning quickly. So I started agency side at a large holdco, Group M, and spent a couple years there. I was a 360 planner, so I did all channels. And then when I made my move to my second holdco, which was Omnicom, I knew I really wanted to focus in digital media. I saw that as where the future was going, and it was so important. So I really wanted to specialize in that. So I made that pivot to that specialization when I went to my second agency. And then I wanted to try my sales side and tech side, and I moved over to Adobe, working in the programmatic space. So that was really awesome, working for a large tech company. Loved that. And then most recently, I moved over to Accenture, a consultancy, which I never would have seen my career going. And consultancies never even really existed in the media space. And it just kind of shows how quickly, the landscape changes. So I've been at Accenture for about a year and a half now. I'm a client service director in their programmatic services division. So we do media strategy, planning, buying, and analytics.
That's amazing. There's actually your journey. I think it's very inspiring for a lot of people, and you've done so many things. And I think it's important while you're going through your journey to understand what exactly you want to achieve and where you want to get. So it's important to, I would say, align the trends in the industry in what you want to do and how it's going to impact your future. So thank you so much for this. And what resources help you along the way? So is there something that help you while you go on this journey? Maybe people, maybe, I don't know, career resources, maybe even being a part of development on the student day. So what was that for you?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's definitely a combination of people and resources. I think, we always talk about at our ad club student day how networking is really important. And I feel like students a lot of the time are like, we hear that buzzword, but what does it mean? And it really just means every person you meet, you need to treat them, with respect and as a valuable resource in the future, because especially in our industry, people move so quickly, and someone who might be your peer one day might be your client the next, might be your boss the next day. So you really should treat everyone that you meet, with the value that they have, because it is all about networking. People as well in your career, like your mentors, are super important. I've been really lucky to always have really strong mentors wherever I went. And mentorship, I think, is talked about and is a question in student day as well. And, not all mentors come naturally. Sometimes they just fall into place and you really click with someone, but sometimes you have to be really purposeful with choosing someone that you really look up to or respect or want to learn from. And people in our industry are usually so open that they'll meet you for a cup of coffee, have a quick Zoom, and you can pick your brain. And that's really how I've, leveraged my mentors whenever I made a move in my career. I asked them, their opinions, what they thought, got different perspectives. And I think that's really helped me. And I'm really thankful for that.
Thank you so much. We will talk a little bit more about mentorship and student day exactly in the next questions. But just wanted to say that this is so awesome. And I really want our audience not to feel like networking is only about like getting a job. It's not the purpose. Networking has completely different goal in this case, I think. And it's not just talking to someone and expecting something from someone or expecting to get a job offer right away. That's not how it works. And I think it's the biggest misconception right now for a lot of people, especially a lot of students who hear this networking word and they just don't know what to do about it and then don't know what to expect from it.
I totally agree. And I think it's really, great that you have that insight, because if you're always just reaching out to network to someone and they can tell that you're just wanting something from them, I don't think that's, truly networking. And back to my point around, always having that value exchange with people. It can't just be what can you get from someone. It has to kind of be a two-way street.
You just nailed with that sentence. It should be an exchange of value, which most of the people don't know. And I couldn't agree more with every point that you have currently said. So just to move on, more about Caitlin's journey. I'm so sorry there. So, if you could turn back the time and talk to the 18-year-old Caitlin again, what would you tell her?
Yeah, this was a funny one. So a few things I kind of thought of. One, the main one was like, don't be stressed and don't be scared. In your career, when you're first starting out, especially, everything can seem so serious, so overwhelming. You don't want to make a mistake. But I think my best bosses and mentors would always say, our jobs, we aren't saving lives. We're putting out a lot of fires, but we're not saving a lot of lives. So I think it's always, having that perspective really helps with the stress when you're working long hours or working weekends, just knowing that you need to, prioritize yourself first and, give yourself that time and that balance. And, there'll always be work the next day when you open up your laptop. So sometimes you just have to stop. So I think going back to just, don't stress, don't have imposter syndrome, as I mentioned before, and be confident in yourself.
Yeah, and mistakes, I think it's a big part of the journey of all of us, and it's okay. And it's okay to have these problems. It's okay if you cannot do something or you don't know how to do all these things. And I would say this is a big part of my journey to understanding that you shouldn't stress out about everything on earth. You just need to choose your focus and go straight to your goals. So, yeah.
That's great. Yeah, if you stress too much, like I feel like the most top performers are usually perfectionists, but it's gonna lead to burnout that way, right?
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, for our next question, I would say that's about people who were the most influential to you. Maybe that was your mentors. So tell us more about mentorship, and what does it even mean in this modern world?
Yeah, I did touch on it a little bit. And I think, the other part of your question was like, what other, things have helped you? So I'll try to maybe touch on that too. But I mentioned, mentors are important. It doesn't need to be a formal relationship. It can be casual and keep in contact. So some of my mentors are from my first job, 8 years ago. And when I'm still have a problem or am looking for a new opportunity, I'll reach out to them and ask them their perspective. Another person I'll give a shout out to is my dad. So my dad worked in the industry. He's a old media vet. I definitely looked up to him in his path. But whenever I ask him for advice, he always just tells me to figure it out. So I never really got much of an edge with that one.
And that's really interesting that you being with your family member and your dad being in the industry, it really is a very mental support that you get. And it's really nice to, follow someone's path or someone's follow footsteps, and you can build yourself with that. So, following with that question, what are the resources that you want to share with our audience that you got helped with during along with your career?
Yeah. So, as a part of the Ad Club Student Day, we actually collect a lot of resources, and that's kind of our big initiative for this year, is to not just have our one student day, but as a part of the student committee to actually build like a data bank of resources to share with students, recent graduates, or people trying to break into the marketing industry. So I think there's always, the formal certifications. You can go to college, and that's definitely kind of table stakes these days. And then we know there's all the online training resources from all the big partners in the world. And I definitely think, you need to always learn in this industry, as I mentioned earlier. I think one that doesn't get used enough is, your company resources. And I think especially if you're in a big company or you're really, really busy at work, you'll tend to skip those things. You'll skip the training, you're too busy. So I think using your company as a resource is really, really important. I actually, at my old company at Adobe, they actually offered tuition grants. So that actually inspired me to go back to school, and I'm still currently working on my master's part-time. So when I was still there, they were actually paying for that, and it's what inspired me to kind of go back into academia. So I think tap out your company as a resource because they are investing in you, and I think you should always keep learning and up leveling.
What other resources the company could provide? Could it be like some webinars, or maybe joining together some, I don't know, different sessions from top industry leaders?
Yeah, like, depending on the company, sometimes they have internal meetings, they'll bring in external people, they'll offer their own training, they'll offer events. Like sometimes they don't even publicize it that much. So I would just say, whatever company you're with, really dig into it and just always say yes to things. I think, going back to the question of like, what other advice would you give your younger self? Like say yes to everything. You'll never regret, going to an event is where you meet someone and they might be your connection for that new job. And just having all those experiences. I think especially now in COVID, when we're all stuck at home, you really miss those things, like in all those opportunities we got to always, be able to go to sports games or concerts. And sometimes you get so spoiled that you'd be turning these things down. And so I think just always, say yes to any training, certification, or networking opportunities.
Yeah, that's actually great advice. And just want to add that when you're working in a company, and that's something that I learned in my current position, take some time if you know that you're confident in some other like specialties. Just ask like what else you can do. There is so many other things. How can you learn in your position? So you don't need to go through different like places, go to different companies and hoping you will get something more from them. I think it's important to take advantage of the position you're at and actually just be of value to your company. And maybe you will understand that you can do something better or you want to do different thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. One of my agencies that I was at actually initiated something called a shadowing roundtable. So you actually got matched with people who did different roles than you, and you could kind of sit with them for a day. So you could even, to your point, sit with someone in legal or finance, something that you don't know anything about. But when you get to see the processes and what they do, it might actually make connections of like, oh, I've been doing this way, and then sending it to the legal team, but this is making their life harder. So maybe I can now change what I'm doing in my role. And it really just gives a different perspective and you learn different things.
Yeah, that's actually amazing. Hopefully, like more companies will have something like that because never heard of something like that before. And I think this is something that may be missing for students or like grads right now because when you're trying to find a place where you want to go, you don't know. Like, I don't know what media planner does. I don't know what social media manager does. And what's the difference between social media manager, community manager, paid ad specialist, and all these like different names. And that would be so great if there would be a place where you could just like go and actually experience all that like for a day or two and talk with the people who are actually in that position.
It's almost like job speed dating or something. Like instead of like a 3-month internship, you'd probably actually get a lot more insight of doing like a week at a different role for
Yeah.
at a time. Yeah, that'd be cool. I like that idea.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to say that like I'm from Ukraine, so I know that for kids, we have a place in the mall specifically where like kids like 4 or 5 year old then can come and try different positions. So they can be a marketer for a little bit. They can go and try to be a driver. They can go like try to be a chef or something. And they have this simulation for kids. And I think it's so cool. And I think that would be nice to have something for people actually in the workplace when they can, grads can just finish school, they can come and try this for a day, understand how it's going to be like for them, like for the near future.
I love that. Maybe you're onto something there. You got to start.
maybe it's just business ideas keep here coming up. Yeah. So go ahead, Shreya.
No, please go ahead.
It's okay. I was planning to move on to second question, but I see you tried to set some comments
Yeah.
twice.
I was just trying to add to the Caitlin's point that about the shadow point. So I just wanted to add that at Denshu, back at home, we used to practice this shadow thing, but in the form of interviews and in terms of exchanging teams. Like Google Ads team will sit with a Facebook ad team, Pragmatic team will sit with a PLA team. So this is a thing that we used to follow, not with a financial thing, complete different vertical. But that's really interesting. That's one thing that I have learned for sure today, and that's anyone who would go to that agency would be a very lucky person, because that's something new and out of the box. I completely agree with that point.
I mean, and one thing I'll just add to that, like, it doesn't need to be a formal process that your agency does. I bet you if you reached out to HR or someone in a different department or asked your manager and said, I'd love to sit with a programmatic person for a day, or I want to see what the media planner does, people will be open to do it. And I think that's something that people underestimate in our industry is, things aren't just going to be handed to you, or it doesn't have to be a formal process. You can really make it what you want. And everyone is so open and nice in our industry generally. So, you can get a lot of opportunities that way, just being proactive.
Yeah, that's amazing. And hopefully for students and grads, it will not be like HR. When you hear the word HR, it's very scary. And this is just very people in this uniform and they're so hopefully it's not going to be like this for students and for young marketers. And hopefully we will all have some courage to actually do something like that and have a great experience with the company. So yeah. So moving on to second question. Oh, next question. Yes. So what is the biggest failure that you had so far in your journey and what you have learned from it?
Yeah, this was a tough question. I had to really think about this one. And I kind of have a non-answer, so it's not going to be very satisfying because I truly don't ever categorize something as a failure in my life. That's just not really my style or attitude. I think even the most negative things, you can turn it into a learning experience. So when I was racking my brain, and maybe that's bad for me, I was like, I don't see any failure, but it's more just that even times that you think are a roadblock, you can turn it into an opportunity or just look at it in a positive way. I think the only thing that I could really think of, and it goes back to people, is, when you're at an organization, you always think you have all the time in the world, to get to know people. And then you might change companies or they might change companies. And it really is such a fast-paced industry. And I guess the only thing I thought of was, sometimes you wish you had more time with people and got to know people, better. Because sometimes they spend a lot of time in your life when you're working. You see them, a lot and every day. And then you don't see them anymore at all. And once again, it's a small industry. So yeah, I just think, get to know people and take that time. It's really important.
I just want to add one point, and I completely agree with that point. People think that they have made a mistake, but the second next point, most important point after that would be how will take in a positive way that thing. How can you build it up? People think that I won't be able to do it, but it's really important in the life to just go on, fight against it, and do it. I won't regret that point because I have came out from that, and I've done these kind of things which have made me, accomplish some of the big achievements in my life. So that's really valid point, and our audience should know that it's very important that everyone would have a failure in life. It's not important. It's the way that how we'll take it.
Yeah, and I want to clarify, like when I say I haven't had a failure, like I've interviewed for many jobs and haven't got them, but it's just, yeah, in your mind, if you registered as a failure, that might prevent you from doing that next interview or taking that next risk. Like when I was first trying to get in the industry, I had many interviews and never heard anything back. I've interviewed for many jobs when I was looking to make a move, you don't hear back, but it's more just, having that filter in your own mind of remembering the positives. So it's like, yeah, just to clarify, I've been rejected many times, but that's not what people see. They just see your successes. But I think, going back to like taking risks and just not being someone who's worried to try and ask questions, eventually you'll get there. So it's kind of a numbers thing.
I completely agree with that point, but just to add on how you have came out from that in a positive way just shows the commitment that you have to that particular thing. And I really appreciate the fact that you have shared with that to the audience. Reason being, people think that people get in a depression, there's a mental health issue that people get into, and it's really important, especially in this unprecedented times, in this COVID situation, that people should know that they should take things in a positive way, and people are there for their help, you know. So coming back to the next question and talking about media more, so what is that one thing that you want to debunk about media today?
See, this one I liked because I think there's a really good answer to this one. And I've heard it a lot from students being a part of the Ad Club student committee is I hear a lot that people don't think media can be creative. So that's what first came to my mind. I hear a lot of students, and I've visited a lot of classrooms, Mohawk College, York, different universities, Durham College. And when you ask what stream students are in or what they want to go into, I would say more than half, if not almost all, want to go into a creative agency, and they have a creative background. And I think if I was a student, I probably would have said the same thing because I have an art background, I want to be creative. But I think the misconception is that media, you can actually be really creative. Sometimes, I mean, not even more so in a creative agency, but in a different way. Because if you're in a creative agency, maybe you're actually being the graphic designer or the copywriter or the art director. But in media, you're doing strategy, you're being strategic, you're doing problem solving skills, you're being collaborative, working with people, working with clients, problem solving. Like I think what's the most fun thing about media is that you get a brief and a budget, and then you get to come up with all these amazing creative ideas. And once again, you might pitch them to a client and they say no to a couple, and they want to do something more kind of standard, but one or two will poke through, and that can be some of the most fun, awesome things. So I think a myth about media is that it's not creative. There is a lot of numbers in Excel. I'm not like a huge numbers person, and I've still succeeded. We have tools for a reason. So I think you can be very creative in media. I think that's the biggest misconception.
That's really interesting, and people should know, especially the students right now, the ones who are the recent grads or who are just gonna graduate, that people from art background, it's not important that you should go to the creative thing and you should come to the media. People think that numbers is not their cup of tea, but it is not like that. There are people, especially when you're at an entry level situation, there are people who gonna help you, and it's nothing as such that numbers would be that strange for you. You have that base background that people should, and media is not tough. We have a prime example with us, Caitlin. So coming into the media is not a big thing. I completely agree with that point. So now just jumping into the more of art clubs. So especially for our audience, we want to. So there are two parts of this question. The first one is, please let us know to our audience what is art club, so that people have a lot of misconceptions about art club of Toronto. So we want to know that thing first, and how art club of Toronto is coping up with this COVID-19 situation in order to make this year's a virtual student day a successful one.
Yeah, so for the listeners who don't know, Ad Club of Toronto is a nonprofit organization. So all of the committee members are completely volunteers. We all do this in addition to our regular day jobs. And everything we do and all the money we raise and fundraisers and from sponsorships and events all goes back into the industry, with NABS, one of our key nonprofits that we work with in Canada. So as a part of Ad Club of Toronto, I am on the board most recently, and then I'm also a co-chair of the student committee, which is relatively new. This is the third year. Our first two events were in person. They were super fun,
Yes.
Yeah, we had like over 300 students attend each year, engaging panels. And this year it has all moved online. So we are in the midst of planning it. It is on February 11th in the afternoon. Sign up and register at studentday.com. And yeah, I mean, it's been a challenge. We've had to do all the collaboration with the committee. So there's about 7 other folks on the committee, my co-chair, Boris. And we've had to do all the planning using, online shared tools like GDocs and email and Zoom. So, it's not as fun as it usually is when the committee gets together, maybe, in a restaurant over dinner and a drink, but we're making do. I think we're going to have a Zoom party when we're done with it. I can't tell you if we'll be successful yet because the event hasn't happened yet. Hopefully it goes well. Though we had to think of a lot of things like, we know about Zoom fatigue. So instead of having a full day event like it usually is, we wanted to shorten it. We wanted to make sure it was really relevant for people. So we made it more of a drop-in schedule. So there's 4 different panels. We have the descriptions and the attendees of the panel. So people can actually pick and choose and drop in and out, knowing that schedules are a bit more, disrupted and fragmented these days. So we're excited and looking forward to it. And hopefully there's no technical problems.
No,
We're
couldn't agree
we're so
more.
excited too.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that all the audience out there that I have been personally the part of Second Ad Club of Toronto Student Day. So go out there, be a part of Zoom call, and you're gonna enjoy it for sure.
Yes.
And it's not just for students too, right? It's for emerging recent grads, people looking to move or pivot into the marketing industry. Like I've had people reach out who are, older than me, and they're like, hey, I want to get into media. Like, can I attend? And we're like, it's fully open for everyone. Like students is kind of just what we call it and what we've started it with, but it's for anyone looking to just network, meet people, ask questions. It's going to be a really open Q&A format, which is kind of how the other days were, all through the chat now, obviously, but it's really a forum to just ask questions and pick the brains of the industry leaders.
That's amazing. And yeah, I had a chance to participate last year, and that was absolutely amazing. It gave me like so much energy to actually like start doing something, get my dream job. It was like, Jarina, go get it. What are you doing here? So yeah, that was amazing. There was like so many people in the audience, and that was just incredible. So we are very excited for the event for this year. And honestly, I already published about it twice on LinkedIn, so we'll continue with that. And hopefully we'll have a chance to learn more from industry professionals and network with people. So
thank you so much. No, thanks for your support. And I'm so glad that people are coming back to it. And it's great to hear that. So thank you.
yeah, thank you so much. So we are coming to our last question and the most important question. So what would be that one advice that you would give to students, to new grads, or just young marketers out there, something that will be really important and meaningful for them?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And I think it's a summary of everything we've already talked about. I think the key one is about prioritizing yourself. Sometimes you can work for a company or a team and get, caught up in, we talked about being stressed and trying to deliver, but you need to always be learning, and you need to prioritize your own career and your own learning first. And that was a piece of advice I got, is that you should always be learning. And if you're not, that's when, it might be the time to, start looking and to move on, because especially with how quickly everything moves these days in our industry, especially, you need to always be challenging yourself. And if you're not, and you're getting bored, and you're doing the same thing, you're gonna, get stagnant, and your skills will get outdated. So I find a lot of students, especially young people starting out in the industry, you're prioritizing your company. when this might be controversial, but I think you should prioritize yourself, because the company is going to get what they can out of you. And sometimes, like, I notice that a lot very tactically is when you might skip some of the amazing resources we discussed that a company might offer with training or guests or all these opportunities. And I've seen a lot of young people skip them because they have too much work to do. Oh, I have too much work. I'm not going to go to this event, or I'm not going to go to this webinar. And I think that's the worst thing to do. You need to stop, put it down. The work will be there. You need to keep developing yourself. So that's my piece of advice, is be a little bit selfish.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
couldn't
Amazing
agree more.
advice.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Just wanted to say.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear. Yes, can I say?
I just wanted to say that, couldn't agree more with Caitlin. It was like the perfect summary for anyone out there, especially our audience, that how they can especially prioritize their things, and how they can especially learn, especially with these unprecedented times and with the current situation that we are living in. So yeah, thank you so much, Caitlin. Like, this was like exactly the things that the our audience require, especially with these times. And you have it. It has been a pleasure to have you. Like, I think so, Darina. We should let Caitlin go for her dinner. It's been a long day for her, especially.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. You guys are doing an amazing thing here. I think, this shows your proactivity and engagement in the industry, and that'll take you a long way. So happy to be here and to speak with you, and hopefully we'll catch up when we don't have a timer counting down. But thank you for having me on.
Thank
No
you so
problem.
much. Yeah,
Awesome.
so it was a great to actually have a chance to speak with you. Yes, virtual, but we're still here, and so thankful for you to share your journey with us today. And we are actually very excited to probably stay in touch and hopefully meet like for coffee at some point. So thank you so much. Really amazing advice. I didn't have a chance to give a comment in the end, but it was such amazing advice. Thank you so much. I'm sure our audience will just take a lot of notes and just go and implement it. So thank you.
Amazing. Thanks so
I just
much.
I just want to add before we go, all the audience out there, go and please participate in this year's student day. Of course, it is gonna be virtual, but please, people, there are people who are trying to help you with these unprecedented times, especially, and there are people like Caitlin, especially, who are doing things which will be beneficial in the near future for you guys. So yeah, I just wanted to say to our audience that is a special request. It is all, everything is for you. There's nothing as such that we are going to take it. It's all about contribution.
Thank
Love
you.
it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Have a great night and evening. We hope that we stay connected, and we, of course, we should actually one day after this all is gone, we should meet someday. It was a pleasure to have you in our show, and especially to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you so
it.
much.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye bye.